So what have you guys been watching on the news these days? COVID-19? Vaccines? Putin? Well, what about an issue that might spark into the Third World War? Currently, on the Ukrainian and Russian border, something peculiar has been going on. To be more specific, Putin is trying to invade ex-Soviet countries, which is a pretty bad thing. Now, earlier today, in my research, I saw a video posted by a news outlet that showed Putin talking with president, or I don't know, dictator of China, Xi Jinping, about this issue. And Xi Jinping was like, yeah, sure, I'm going to help you. In fact, we're trying to do the exact same thing with Taiwan. So now we have two kind of communist parties coming together, taking over a country, and are now on the brink of war against the Allies if the war breaks out, because they're no allies. But today we're going to be talking more about the Ukrainian, European, Russian side of it, not the Xi Jinping side, because nothing kind of happened there yet. Now, in order to understand Putin, why Putin would want it, you need to understand about Russia. Russia started as a small part in Ukraine. It was inhabited by the Kievan Rus, called that because it included a place called Rus these days, and its capital was a place called Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine right now. So, in an article that Putin wrote, he explains that the Russian and Ukrainian people are one person, and that the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union. Fellow Soviet citizens found themselves beyond the fringes of Russian territory. Now take that for a second and put it with Putin's three demands. The three demands are three demands that he gave at his first speech to the public who's not Russian, after he started moving troops to Ukraine. And what he said was, 1, NATO stop expanding. Ukraine hasn't already joined NATO, but half of the population say that they want to join the European Union. Sorry, the Soviet Union is not a thing anymore because nobody cares about communism except for Xi. And most of the entire population thinks that joining NATO would be pretty good. And Russia, they're not having that. So the first thing is to tell NATO to stop expanding. Number 2 is that all UN and NATO and ENU, I guess, troops move out of Eastern Europe, also known as ex-Soviet territories. The last thing that he said was something pretty stupid. America, do not help your allies, even if that's what allies are meant to do. Now, of course, nobody accepted it. But now, if you take his blog article things and put it together with his three demands, you can see what he's trying to do. He is trying to restore the country into former glory. He's the great liberator. And he argues that all the Ukrainian people will bring him in with open arms and celebrate. No. People are hating you, Putin, right now, dingus. But now, let's go actually straight to what is going on. 2013, Ukraine includes a place called Crimea. 2014. There's no Crimea in Ukraine anymore. It has been folded in to Russian territory. That was the first invasion of Ukraine. After that, everybody was like, don't worry, nothing's gonna happen. What? They are moving troops onto the border of Ukraine, and they're sending troops into Crimea and are starting to get another country that is an ally with Russia to start doing hit and run tactics on Ukraine. The second invasion of Ukraine, which has not happened yet, but it is going to be in the future. If, I don't know, somebody does not assassinate Putin. Please, somebody assassinate Putin. I don't want another world war. Now, what happens next is pretty complex. Ukrainian troops move soldiers into different places. But then if you look at the map, which I have a map of that I sketched out, you'll be able to see that Russia's allies that is helping Russia in this, and Russia and Crimea have the ability to strike at the capital of Ukraine at different positions. If Kiev was here, boom, 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 boom. Kiev is completely vulnerable. The defenses are building up slightly. Thank you, United States, for supplying Ukraine with some weapons. But there's one place that is really underdefended. If you saw that news video about that road that leads from Russian territory, from the Russian troops, all the way down to Kiev. Now, that was really important, but I feel like they are concentrating more forces around Kiev and not on the road that leads to Kiev. Now, let's look at Russia and what Russia needs to do. You see, at this time, Russia is waiting, and this is really not a good idea if they're trying to invade Ukraine, because if Russia keeps waiting, then Ukraine will continue receiving more strategic supplies by its allies. So the more Putin waits, the stronger Ukraine gets. And already Ukraine's pretty strong. It's a big country. I mean, Britain is nearly as big as Ukraine. So even a giant nation like Russia, it would be pretty hard to invade Ukraine without, having a bunch of your civilians die. So this is something that Russia is doing really wrong. For Ukraine, it is not defending a strategic location, and for Russia, wasting up time. Time is what decides everything. If Putin wants to wait until 10 years, Ukraine would have probably become a superpower by that time when it comes to military standards. So Putin, because you sometimes watch YouTube videos, according to a YouTube video, if you are watching this and you know enough English to understand what I am saying, if you want to invade Ukraine, well, I'm not saying that you should invade Ukraine, but I do like war. If you want to, just do it quick, because the more time you waste, the more Ukraine is becoming more powerful. But sadly, this is where we have come to this day. This day, right here, this year, this second. And not many combat has not happened, except for a few hit and run tactics and that stuff. 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers have already died. But the tensions are growing. Ukraine is trying to get one over Russia, and Russia is going to get one over that. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. The sky is the limit. Actually, the end of the universe is the limit. Actually, God's testicles are the limit. And I have to say, if these tensions rise to the boiling point, that it smashes through the border that crosses into war. We cannot tell. I know that that's going to have a lot of consequences. Putin, stop it. And maybe I'll do a part 2. If you want to hear a part 2, leave it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. And I'll see you, hopefully, when Putin decided not to invade.